Hello and welcome to the Business of the Business podcast. I'm your co-host, JP John Paz from the Two Man Power Trip. Of course, joining me is the financial wrestling genius himself, Mr. Lavie Margolin. Lavie, how you doing today, sir?
Hey John, I'm doing well. A special opportunity for us today. I think, one of the magical parts of like the pro wrestling business certainly are the like niches, and certainly like the territory era. And I think one of those niches that sort of remains true to a lot of our hearts, even if we don't know a lot about it, but we're going to learn a lot, is Appalachia. I think like from like a regional or like national scene, we really began learning more about it through Smoky Mountain Wrestling in the mid 90s. And then the general population had this sort of exposure to it during contentious election season, the first time Trump was running for president. And there was a character called the Progressive Liberal, where he would wear these great pajama pants that had Hillary Clinton on them. And people sort of got a perception of that. But it feels like in Appalachia that the fans really still believe or are willing really to sort of be absorbed in the show. And we really want to learn a lot more about that. So with all that being said, a pleasure to welcome Troy Rankin to the show from
Hi, guys.
West Virginia Public Broadcasting and recently the producer of Appalachia.
How you doing, guys?
Troy, that's like we'd like to start off. It's almost like kind of like where you're from and like what were you like a wrestling fan of, and you can kind of tell by with the territory sometimes what you're a fan of. So where did you end up growing up?
Of course, I am originally from Denver, Colorado, and I moved out here about 5 years ago. And so I've been a fan since I was like 5 or 6 years old. I can remember watching like WrestleMania 6 with Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior and like crying when Hulk lost. And that was like my first big memory of wrestling. And it just been, it like sunk its, hooked me in ever since then. And now it's been, God, I'm 42. Yeah. So 36 years later, here I am and just still loving it.
When did you decide to kind of get into not just like the wrestling part of it, but like into media part of it, just as far as like, hey, this is kind of what I want to do. I want to get involved in media.
I was kind of floundering in college and I kind of just happened upon like a TV production class and I sat down and everything just kind of clicked into place. And then from there, I've had like a 15-year career in reality TV and things kind of dried up. So I came to public broadcasting and I just noticed an opportunity to make a documentary that I really wanted to try and make. So it was just kind of happenstance, honestly.
With that, like all those years of, like you said, your experience in media and stuff, were you a wrestling fan through all these years, or did you step away from it for a little bit, or were you all still involved?
I took a little bit of a break when I was in college, so like from like 18 to about like 25, 26, and maybe even a little bit longer, but not much. And then I kind of there was a deal on the WWE network to get WrestleMania for free, and so I was like, well, let me just take a look at it. And like I said, and then it was that one. It was the Seth Rollins' Greatest Heist, and so that was like that was the last thing. That was one of the first things I saw back again. So I was like, oh, it's fun, and it's still I haven't missed a whole lot even in that long period of time. It's still kind of the same fun thing that I enjoy and I remembered.
When you were a fan, who was your favorite? Like who were like some of the guys, even growing up? Like were you like you said, cried over Hogan? Like, you must have been a Hulkamaniac.
Oh, I was, yeah, and Sting always. We got WCW and WWE in Denver, so I got to see that. I love Sting. I loved Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, all the NWO stuff. Steve Austin, big one. The Rock, all that. All basically anything someone my age would probably really like.
When you're like going through right, like through the history of wrestling, I'm the same age as you, so it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's like different phases, like Hogan big, and then like NWO Attitude Era was
Mm-hmm.
big. I was still into it in college, but it's funny like how much it changed. Are you kind of surprised just of like how many changes in our lifetime there was in wrestling? Because it was some very cartoony, then it goes very real, then it goes a little weird, and now we're in like kind of a realism era.
Uh, yeah, I think, but I think my guess is, and what I feel like seen online is that it's it seems like they try to get kids and kind of get them through their adult cycle, and so like it's like, does that make sense? Am I kind of, it's like they try to get kids in the 80s, and then as they grown up and taste change, they got to get to the Attitude Era, and then they kind of did like a hard reset and tried to get a new set of kids into it, and now it's kind of like those kids are now grown up and getting into their late 20s and 30s, and it's now we're seeing another more adult kind of presentation in terms of WWE, at least what I can tell. Then to my understanding, like a lot of the indie stuff kind of just kind of filled the gaps in, while WWE was a little more kid friendly.
Now, Lavie is going to talk to about the doc, if you will, the Grappalachia. So I'll hand it over to Lavie.
Cool.
Yeah. So first, I have to build a little bit of West Virginia cred, just a little bit through marriage. My wife grew up in Morgantown.
Oh.
Her father was a chemist, and his career took him there. So they lived there through through middle school. So
Okay.
as Long Island New Yorkers who were vegetarians and Jewish, it was like a little bit of like, it was nice. They enjoyed it, but like when you go to a birthday party, there's always like the anchovies on the pizza, and they're like not sure, not sure what to do, and so on. So when you got to your job here, if it's been the same place for the last 5 years, sort of like, when were you thinking about like, how do I bake in wrestling here? Because for me, for my career, like, and everyone that's been like a wrestling fan, even like if it's like not really related to the job, you're kind of like, maybe there's like a reference I can make to wrestling. Like, for example, I work for a college, so I'm going to be doing a panel on like Linda McMahon, assuming the role of Department of Education, and it relates, somewhat to my work. So like, when did you try and like figure out like, how does wrestling fit into what I'm doing here?
Well, I've only actually been here for a little over a year, but it was like one of the first things I saw. I got taken to an indie show here, and there was a guy, and he was just like, it was just classic, in heel trope of like, your town sucks, West Virginia, a bunch of redneck hillbillies. He's from Ohio, like Appalachian Ohio. It's like not much of a difference, but enough of one from, people are really, people are tribalistic with where they live. And I'm sitting around, and I'm kind of just taking in the crowd because it's like my first indie show in a long time. And there's like a grandmother. She is flipping him the bird, and I don't know if I could cuss or not on this, but like, okay. So she's saying like, "Fuck you, you fucking suck, fuck off," and like this old gray-haired woman. I'm like, and I died laughing. I was like, but I was like, oh my god, they are into it here. They love it here, and so that kind of sparked my interest in terms of like trying to document that and like seeing what was going on the indie scene here. So. Luckily, we had some turnover at public broadcasting, and so they were willing to try and do some new things and some interesting type things. And wrestling, I just pitched it, and they were like, "Yeah, go make it, have fun," and here we are.
So with a business that had been traditionally closed, obviously it's changed a lot in the last 25 years plus. Like, did you need sort of like a Sherpa, somebody that like would guide you in, would like say like, trust these people, they're not here to like make fun of us or to expose us, and then like you sort of build from there?
Yeah, funnily enough, my wife's ex-husband is a wrestler, and we all get along very well. And so he was like, "I'll introduce you to the promoter of All Star Wrestling, Gary Dameron." And so I went and had dinner with Gary and a couple of the wrestlers and another guy, and just kind of chatted. And I kind of told him what the vision would be of just like, I love wrestling, and I want to show that I love wrestling, and I want to have a love letter to wrestling on public broadcasting. And from there, I mean, I think that eased a lot of the probably possible tensions, because I mean, I never wanted to be like part of the boys or anything like that. I just wanted to tell a story. So yeah, I think having Michael, my stepkid's dad, give me an entree into that was really helpful.
Yeah, I'm so glad you used the term like love letter to pro wrestling. I've watched the documentary twice and
Oh,
enjoyed it
thank you.
both times. Sure.
How did you find it?
Oh, so I'm I'm known for my Google alerts.
Okay.
So I spend about half an hour a day going through like pro wrestling, all that sort of thing through Google, and that's sort of what helps me find unique things. So it was actually a reminder this week when I got another Google alert about it. I think there was a written article in local press, but I think
Okay.
the first time that I saw it, it was actually on the broadcasting's website. So it sort of like reminded me
Oh,
and brought
cool.
me back to it. But like as a love letter, like I was thinking, like as a journalist, like you made a choice to say like this is going to be a positive look at things because like any other business, right? There's infighting, rivalry, things that could be done better, honest people, dishonest people, and so on. Like, did you go into it like thinking like, okay, this is going to be positive because I love it, or let the story like unfold as it does?
I've seen the Dark Side of the Ring. I've seen a bunch of those, and like, quite honestly, like that story's been told, so I had no interest in like trying to recreate any kind of dark, seedy underbelly of wrestling. And a lot of media in Appalachia and specifically West Virginia focuses on like how downtrodden these people are, how poor they are, this, that, and the other. And like I wasn't looking into poverty porn either. That's like not an interest to me. Like I'm trying to uplift the area that I live and that I have chosen to live. So like I don't want to like. I mean, of course that stuff is here, like you just said. But it's like we're more Appalachian people are more than that, and so I wanted to uplift the area, and that was kind of like the impetus. Is like going into it like this is going unless something like completely insane happened. Like I was gonna just try and keep a positive outlook on the story and whatever was gonna be.
So one of the parts that I really enjoyed and was unique to it was the use of the PAFO ICW footage. Like,
Hmm.
how did you go about? I know that that's seen more light recently on different streaming services, but like, how did you go about acquiring that? And did you inquire on like Southeastern Championship, Smoky Mountain? Like, how did you come to use that footage?
Well, one of the promoters that told me that the Paphos ran shows in the same arena that they run shows in, and so I just did the same thing. I did some googling and just seeing like if there was any kind of footage of them here in West Virginia. I was just trying to like tie like old school wrestling to this area because it has been popular here since obviously for a very long time. And so I found ICW and I talked to a man named Joe Dombrowski, and he is in with Gene Okerlund's son Todd, and so they kind of run the tape archive of that. And I just emailed him and just kind of gave him the same pitch I gave Gary. I was like, I'm just trying to run this thing about wrestling in Appalachia, and if you have anything about if they're wrestling in West Virginia, that's fine. But I'll take because I mean those shows were in Eastern Kentucky, so I mean basically the same area. So I was like, I'll take that too. I can tell some Appalachia stuff as well if need be, if I can't find any televised wrestling. So in West Virginia. So that was kind of it. And he was like, yeah, I'm down. Absolutely. Take whatever you need. And here's a few different things. And I just pulled what I liked and put in the movie.
Cool. Joe's been a guest on the show.
Oh, okay.
Um, so, in terms of thinking about the fans in the area, like it does, have like a very different feel to it, from the outside, like as a region, than the rest of America. Each area is distinct, and sometimes we have like quick thoughts about like, okay, people in LA are like this,
Mhm.
people in New York like that. I think it's important to really understand the people, and sometimes we have those perceptions. Even it's taken JD Vance from anonymity to, if I can say the
Right.
word, to an author to now the vice president,
Right.
whatever people feel. Um, but like sometimes I think like certain myths have been promulgated. Like I don't know if maybe, but I don't know in the 1990s if the fans really believed that wrestling was real, or they were just willing to suspend disbelief and just enjoy things, because like right from the late 1800s it's been known that pro wrestling is fake. But like going to the show and seeing Granny use both of her middle fingers and really like enjoy the experience? Like, if somebody were to sit her down, do you think she would say it was real? Like, what's really going on?
I think that the crowd is as smart as any other crowd in modern day fanaticism. So I mean, I just think that there's like it feels like a very Appalachian thing to say, like there's a sense of like moral justice here. So you're not going to see like a more gray area character here. You're going to see a good guy be a good guy and a bad guy be a bad guy, and it's going to be a face heel dynamic. And it's going to be very evident, it's in your face, and then it's like something you can easily understand and get behind the face. So I think, and people like that either way. So like it didn't matter where I was. There's like a much more smarky crowd here in Charleston where I live, and then in Madison, which is only like 40 minutes away, it's a little more rural. And but I mean, the buy-in for both of them was about the same. So it's people, I think, just willing to suspend disbelief and just treat it as entertainment as you would like a movie.
Do you think, like, for super fans that like travel like to see wrestling, do you think like for them to really understand the wrestling business and get another picture of things that they should go to an independent show or two in West Virginia?
Oh my God, yeah, they should absolutely see an independent show in West Virginia. The fact is, you'll see some of the same guys you see in New York and LA, but they're coming here and just the fans are giving it everything. So they might not. I mean, it was a hot crowd pretty much anytime I went to go film, and like there's outdoor crowds. Like there's a giant thing here called Regatta, and it's like a big 4-day party in downtown Charleston, and so they put on a big wrestling show, and like the little town square area was jam packed with people like going nuts for the show, like like pulling people in and people saying like didn't think that people were like that here, and people like so it was nuts. But yeah, I would say come see an independent show if you got the time and want to come see some fun.
So what's been the feedback from the wrestling world? Has it like traveled outside of West Virginia? I've watched it on YouTube,
Yeah.
Of course. Like, what have people said?
It's been mostly positive. I have not heard anything negative about it. I mean, and I hope somebody would be at least honest with me if they didn't like it. But people have really, really enjoyed it, and are honestly asking for like more. And I was like, I don't know. I gave 9 months of my life to that, and like what was pulling my hair out trying to book wrestlers and do this and that. But it's been mostly positive. I don't think it's gotten. This is the furthest outside I think it's gotten to you guys, honestly. So but it's been genuinely positive, and all the guys and girls that are in it really liked it, liked how they're portrayed, I think. And that's all I can really ask for is like a positive thing from them, because I made it for people who like wrestling, and I made it for people like wrestlers. So
as a fan, who's someone that we should watch out for that might not have been on a wider scale, but maybe we'll be hearing something big in a few years?
Troy Parker, for sure. That guy is five tools all the way around. Big, mean looking guy, athletic as hell. Can pretty much he really loves Japanese strong style wrestling, and so he just got the look, and he's pretty much ready to take the next step.
Let me turn over to John.
Where can everybody find Grappalachia? Give us one last big push for it, and basically where everybody can see it, YouTube and even obviously PBS.
Yeah, you can find it on YouTube, on our West Virginia Public Broadcasting page. Just look up Grappalachia. You just put G and R in front of the word Appalachia, and you got it. And then it's on the PBS app. And I don't know if it's not national PBS, so it's our local PBS. So you might have to be regional to it. So the best place, honestly, is YouTube. And if you can't find that, somebody can email me. I don't care. I'll send it to them. If they're having a hard time with that, I'll send it to them. I don't care. I like people to watch it. So.
And where can everybody find and follow you as far as social media?
I am on all of them. Instagram, it's Max Power, MaxPower, and then same thing on X, Twitter, and what else am I? And I think those are the only ones. I don't have anything else really.
Perfect. Grapple at you. Everybody should definitely check that out. Troy, thank you so much for all the time.
Thank you guys. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Trey.
Thank you guys. Take
Thank
care.
you, Troy.
All right.
All right, Lavie, let's get to the news. Something very, very intriguing, very interesting. We were talking about our buddy Gabe Sapolsky here. What is going on with WWE, Evolve, and then TUBI of all places?
Yeah, so going back a little bit of a history for us as a news piece, and it seemed like it could be something. I think I was sort of was taking a couple of steps ahead, acknowledging at the time sort of like Tubi is owned by Fox. Maybe Fox's can do something on like an occasional basis, and then Tubi can have it as the regular programming. So it was sort of like let's see what's going on. When we had heard that from Fightful that they were interested in pro wrestling, let me just reference that piece here. So a television platform could be dipping its toes back into the wrestling world. SAP has learned that Fox stream platform Tubi has shown interest in investing in a wrestling product on its platform. Details are few and far between, etc. So that was July 2024, and then it was quiet. But I remember when the UFC was like getting bigger and bigger, and other platforms, especially television at the time, wanted to air MMA. So you'd hear about it or something like that. So the UFC would then suddenly like have that, what was it, WEC? And then they would have that to sell. And then they buy a promotion and so on. So I think WWE is being careful about, being too aggressive in that sense. But here we know that there was a platform that was interested at one time in pro wrestling, and WWE couldn't exactly sell its main product there. The economics may not have made sense. But in the same way that CW was interested in pro wrestling at one point, but they wouldn't have been able to get a WWE main brand. They got NXT here at like a step below that. Now there's Evolve going on Tubi, which I think is like interesting. That's something I'm going to go out of my way to check out at least the first or second time to learn more about it. But it also shows that whenever there's interest in pro wrestling, WWE for the most part and AEW, which is less aggressive, they more have their platforms that they want, are there to serve them. So it's very hard for any other promotion to get any daylight. I know TNA fans are optimistic that maybe WWE will help them, and certainly WWE's parent company seems to be representing them in some sense, potentially for looking for deals. But who ends up getting these deals? WWE.
Think about this, right? WWE, how many networks they're on right now? USA, CW, NBC, technically Peacock as well, Netflix, A&E, Tubi. They're on 7 different stations. That's pretty damn crazy. I mean, talk about being hot. I don't know if, the hottest of the hot era of them. I know obviously the Hogan era was 33 million people watching, it's blowing up, but as far as just the quantity of like where they are, so on 7 different platforms, it's freaking nuts.
Yeah, and like things that we forget about, even like the X has Speed, right? That's still ongoing,
And
and
X, yes. Oh my God, so 8. Wow. Yep.
and what is it? Is it Roku that had like there's some sort of like
Yes, they have a Roku channel, like a show on a Roku channel. It's like a
yeah
what do you call it? Like a not a series, but it's like a what the heck do you call those Kardashian shows?
like reality
Reality
TV,
show, like a reality
yeah,
show. Yep.
reality show.
But they are on
So
Roku as well. Yep.
yeah, so they'll like for the most part, unless it's like competition amongst itself, then they're there to serve it. Like without even having thought about Evolve and having that IP, like we had talked about maybe that there was NX TNA, right? Like that that's something that they could do, but that would be with TNA. But really, they want to serve themselves. So it it really, creates less opportunity, in terms of the market. Like, really, what could other what could other companies do, right? Like, I think the one that, at obviously a much like smaller scale, because it's not what it once was, but like WoW has like full syndication in the US, and that's not something WWE is pursuing, or AEW, or anyone else that I'm aware. I'm sure like uh an MLW would love something like that, or I'm not sure if like a TNA has even explored something like that. But you have to sort of like think about where are other organizations not, and like at the end of the day, like these corporations go with what's safe, meaning that like they could take a risk and like have something like be buzzworthy from like an independent group or whatever it may be, but A, you don't know if they'll be around in a year, so you're like investing in that, and B, you at least know you're getting the WWE brand name, even if it's like their seventh tier priority.
So Evolve is officially back starting March 5th on TUBI, 8 p.m. Eastern, to throw that out there. And obviously, like you were talking about, they're interested in new programming. Got to be honest, I'm interested because I loved Gabe Sapolsky's booking going all the way back to early 2000s ROH. So I am interested to see what he's got going on in 2025. Obviously, he's a big part of the recruiting process in WWE. So it's going to be a lot of guys that he personally recruited that are going to be on this show.
Did you ever have a chance to go to like a formal Evolve show?
Yes. Yep. Couple of them, actually. Yep. Very, very early on, too.
It was like their their first show was their most prestigious venue, which was at like what was it, like a club in Times Square, and then from there, like they started getting lower and lower profile. But
Yeah.
there was a place in Brooklyn, like around the corner from Barclays, called the I think the Lyceum, which was, I think it was like a converted like old bathhouse, but it was just like it had like so much. It was like a total dump, but like it had so much character, and it made the show was like so much fun. So I started going out there like as much as I could. And I saw probably not more than 4 shows, but something like 3 or 4 shows there.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I've been to a couple. So I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't as good as ROH. Got to be honest. Not as good as Ring of Honor, but it was good. Now, as far as NWA is concerned, I just saw kind of, maybe not to a lot of people, but it was kind of big news to me. Is Kerry Morton gone from NWA? What's going on with the NWA?
So I think that he's still going to be like an on-screen wrestler, but concurrent with that, he has been their like marketing manager, social media management, and marketing. So as of today, my time as head of marketing for the NWA has come to an end. And while it's bittersweet, I can't help but reflect on how truly grateful I am for the opportunity. Being a part of the historic brand and helping take NWA to new heights has been an absolute honor. Throughout hard work, passion, and dedication, I, along with my team, broke records in attendance, viewership, engagement, shares, comments, and likes. As a 23-year-old, that doesn't come too often to lead a team to those heights. So he was doing this while he was in college. I'm not sure if he just graduated or he's like close to finishing up. He's quite busy. I think he was on the cheer team too, while being like one of the most active and like buzzworthy pro wrestlers, obviously coming from quite a lineage. But I think like something like that was like so valuable to the NWA, having somebody know like the business, to that degree. I think like it didn't always translate. Maybe you could only do so much, like, right? Like, I'm not sure if I'm aware of so many record-breaking attendances, but like, obviously he did a good job, like given what he had. But one very successful attendance was the first time that they were in the Dothan Civic Arena, and they're coming back, I believe, for their third time, in reference to the second part of the NWA news that we have, NWA Hard Times 5. So when they first announced it in the summer, it seemed like a long time coming, but it's coming up on March 22nd at the moment, and I think this is, again, something that benefits from like local publicity and so on. The ticket sales look slow, even by their standards. I mean that's a slight, but it's a smaller promotion. They're utilizing a bigger building here. It looks like for the most part, just a couple of rows of seats gone, and like a little bit here and there, and it's quite a big venue. So interesting to see if that will pick up.
How about TNA Wrestling? What's the latest?
So, well into July, we'll still be talking about Slammiversary, but tickets they're moving. 45 tickets in the last 7 days. So 2,083. The setup in this huge venue is 4101. But they have a number of initiatives to get attention, and certainly they're working hand in hand with the venue. I get on Facebook constant advertising from the venue for this event, but Jeff and Matt Hardy do New York City, February 6th. Reigning TNA Wrestling World Tag Team Champions, the Hardys, will be in New York on Monday and Tuesday, February 24th and 25th, for promotions at the New York Islanders home game at UBS Arena against their arch rival, the New York Rangers. Hardys will also visit Sirius XM for Busted Open and other popular radio shows, and doing other interviews. So I think, of course, smart thing, like, get the fans that are already going to the arena for other events. Certainly, they have a big presence during the hockey game. So, other TNA related news. So, Full Sail. The tickets, I think we talked about last time, they looked pricey for that, for an event of this type, but it is a unique 2-day swing. So, I think in the end they'll do well. But there's plenty of first row tickets even available, tickets together still, but maybe I'd assume that's the high price point, so we'll see how that picks up. March 14th in El Paso, that looks pretty good in terms of the reserved seats, several rows deep, tickets sold. March 28th in St. Joseph, Missouri, that looks slow, but that one's about 7 weeks out as we record this. April 27th in the Galen Center in California. The floor looks like it's moving along well, and when you go to the website, it says few tickets remaining. I'm assuming that they didn't open up the whole thing for sure, but for what they've put for sale, even in the GA, maybe they'll be opening up more soon.
New Japan Pro Wrestling. What is going on with New Japan? I feel like maybe losing a little bit momentum, but maybe Tanahashi can bring some of it back with his retirement tour.
Yeah, exactly. So I was kind of getting dim on their prospects for the US, but you obviously have the right draw, the right moment, and there's nothing like a retirement match. So April 11th, Wintrust Arena, big venue as well. Almost 2,500 tickets sold, probably 2,500 by the time you hear this. So that's pretty solid for this much out. 106 days, 63 days, so 2 months to go till that show. They also are running another big venue where they've been before in Ontario, California, on May 9th, the Toyota Arena, venue pre-sale and then regular sales February 13th and 14th.
How about
John,
MLW? What is going on? Yep. Can you hear me? What's the latest
Yes.
with MLW?
So MLW, their run is basically once a month, which seems like the right mix in terms of recording and venue selection. It seems like they're really pointing themselves towards the right venue. So February 8th in Atlanta, April 5th in LA, May 10th in Chicago, June 26th in New York City, just announced. And following success in Dallas, they announced pretty early a September 13th show. So let's take a look at these shows that are there now. So Center Stage, February 8th, it's set up for 772. As we record this, we're about a day out. That should be a sellout, just a few tickets away from that. In LA, Battle Riot 7, it's a little bit hard to tell, but they were celebrating the success of it. But there's a fair amount of tickets left as well. But again, this is 2 months out. In May, things are looking really good for a return to Chicago. That will, at least the reserved, will sell out. Likely the host show will sell out. In New York, MLW set to start back into the Big Apple as Summer of the Beasts takes over the Melrose Ballroom on Thursday, June 26th. That's usually a sellout or nearly so. And September 13th in Dallas, looks, some sales so far. Obviously, pretty far out.
How about Game Changer Wrestling? They got some big time shows coming up.
So quietly, they're probably having their most ambitious WrestleMania weekend in terms of venue size. I know when they were going to run the pandemic year, that was like a really big outdoor venue, but in terms of like indoor fixed seating and so on, the Pearl Concert Theater in Vegas, this is a 2,500 seat venue. Looking at the Ticketmaster map for Spring Break, which will be the most high profile, Joey Janela against Sabu, and just the Spring Break brand. The map is kind of interesting because like in the first tier, like the center, like the second part is like off the board, but then there's like the third tier as well. So it's a little bit hard to tell how many tickets are going to be put on sale and so on. But curious to see how this goes, and being a little bit lazy, WrestleTix will do the counts for all these shows. But just looking at recent GCW shows and then ahead, so Effie's title win, he's on a pretty good streak. Obviously, Hammerstein when he won it, England and France sold out. They were pretty much sold out when he had the belt, but he's riding that momentum well. From what I gather, Indianapolis picked up really well over Royal Rumble weekend. Then there's a little bit of a lull. You have the Jersey J Cup nights 1 and 2. Then you have in the end of February, they're in National City, California. Then in March, LA, Mesa, Arizona, Double Shot in Atlantic City, Chicago, Sauget, Illinois. And then you have the whole run in Vegas, Bloodsport, Heels Have Eyes, Spring Break Cluster Forever, the crossover DDT and TJPW, Big Game Brunch. So that's that. And then there'll be a lot filled in between now and July, but a couple of shows announced early. In Dallas on July 11th, and then Bloodsport in London on September 28th.
What is going on with your favorite topic of all time, here and there, which is obviously here and there?
CEO. So V Monet, as it says here, Mercedes Monet, will be debuting for House of Glory, excuse me. And of course, her original trainer is Amazing Red, so obviously a lot of connectivity there. When she was announced as leaving WWE, that I thought she would like pass through there, but she didn't at the time. But in not the New York arena, it's in Club Amazura. I've seen it misreported. So the front row is $175, second $125, third $85. Fourth row 65, and so on. So it's not a inexpensive booking, even if she has the connections, I would assume. So they'd like to capitalize on that or defray some of the costs. So that's one element of the here and there. Next, the only wrestlers, where our friend actually Dominic DeAngeli is certainly very involved in this with RVD. It's kind of probably not exactly the wrestling equivalent of OnlyFans, because that's something else. But this is what's the thing where people used to buy like a message from like Mick Foley or Ric Flair? You don't hear about it as Cameo. Thanks. You don't really hear about it as much anymore. So I would say, even though it's called Only Wrestlers, I haven't used it, but I think it's more similar to Cameo than OnlyFans, which I haven't used either. But this is really smart, where you have at the Vermont Hollywood, a venue that's been used by New Japan before and other promotions. March 20th, you have basically the primary people from Only Wrestlers coming to put on a wrestling show and meet the fans and so on. So it includes RVD, of course, Katie Forbes, Chris Adonis, Luke Hawk, Bill Alfonso, Charlie Haas, and so on. So interesting to see how that model works if they continue having these shows, and it's a good way to promote it and so on. Now, For me, the last point is, as I mentioned on the show before, John, my son is a big fan of the Amazon show Beast Games, and he's gotten me into it as well. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but I'm following it. So, Twana Barnett, who some of you know as the Beast of WoW Wrestling, is doing really well on the show. She's going to I think the final week. There's just 6 contestants remaining where they could win between $5 and $10 million. Now, she has a lot of integrity, although I would have taken the money. Twice on the show, she could have just walked away with $1 million, but she did not. So she wants to go for it all.
Whoa, damn, that's intense. I would have just took the million and get the hell out of there. Damn.
A funny follow-up to that was after the show, I asked my son, I was like, do you want to see the Beast on WoW Wrestling? So he said yes. So we went on YouTube and like he immediately knew like this was different. This wasn't WWE. Like he's like, I was like, oh, he's like, it looks different. I was like, this is studio. And then they were like joking that the logo was like made from my daughter was there else. They were joking that the logo was like made by AI or something like that. So it's sort of like their first exposure to non WWE wrestling.
Yes, good call. Now let's wrap this bad boy up. Head towards the plugs. Thank you to Troy. Everybody check out Grappalachia. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. Lavie, how about you?
So, of course, as it says, if you're watching on YouTube, join the LinkedIn group, The Business of the Business. We are well over 100 members at this point. On X, Lavie Mark, LAVIE-MARG. Check out my long-form articles on linecubjobsearch.com. Some of them are evergreen, a little bit behind on posting, maybe after my doctoral thesis is done to make it sound fancy. We are the official business podcast of PW Ponderings, and we are distributed by the Creative Control Network.
Thank you, Lavie. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. See you right back here next week for a little business of the business. We'll see you next week, folks.